former IAS President, Lok Satta Party and General Secretary, Foundation for Democratic Reforms, Honorable Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan ji. With a huge round of applause, let us welcome our guest. Let us give him a huge round of applause, friends. Thank you, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Day 3 of NLC Bharat Leadership Conclave of Presiding Officers and Legislators 2024. I warmly welcome all the distinguished audiences and honorable dignitaries. Today, we all have gathered here for yet another important session, and the topic of the session is current state of states' finances, role of legislators. And to grace the occasion, today we have former IAS President, Lok Satta Party and General Secretary, Foundation for Democratic Reforms, Honorable Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan ji. And now I request Professor Sridhar Pabisetti sir and Dr. Parimal Maya Sudhakar ji to felicitate and welcome Honorable Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan ji. Let us felicitate and welcome Honorable Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan ji. With a huge round of applause, let us welcome Honorable Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan ji. And we are capturing a very beautiful moment over here. Thank you. Before I invite Honorable Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan ji, I request my technical team to relay a film on life and work of Honorable Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan ji.
A distinguished physician turned civil servant who embarked on a transformative journey to reshape India's governance landscape. Dr. Narayan's remarkable career began as a topper in the IAS exam. Serving Andhra Pradesh for 16 years, fueled by a vision for systemic change, he made a bold move in 1996, resigning from the IAS. He then went on to form the Lok Satta Party. Today, Lok Satta stands as a prominent civil society initiative, championing governance reforms in India. A crusader against corruption, Dr. Narayan's leadership has catalyzed pivotal reforms, including the RTI Act, National Rural Health Mission, Gram Nyayalayas Act 2009, and the Lokpal Act 2011. His efforts have earned him accolades including the Rotary Manav Seva Award in 2002 and the Yuddhavir Memorial Award also in 2002. Through the Foundation for Democratic Reforms and Lok Satta movements, Dr. Narayan tirelessly advocates for service guarantees, education, healthcare, local government empowerment, judicial and police reforms, anti-corruption measures, and political reforms. Join us in welcoming Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan.
Let us put our hands together and welcome Honorable Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan ji.
Friends, I am delighted to be with you all. I don't intend to give a long lecture. I know in the House, I was a member of the legislature. You rarely have a chance to speak. And even here, if you are made to listen to all sorts of inane talks, it will not be very fair. So what I propose is, in about 15 minutes or so, I will give you the outline of some of the data relating to what's happening to our state's finances, and then we'll have an interaction. Okay. Let me start off with Pandit Nehru's very important quote. If India wins, who loses? If India loses, who wins? My plea is, let's all play politics. After all, politics is necessary. We have to reach out to people, get their public support, and get into office, and then, in our vision, reshape the country and do what best we can for the people of this country. But if our politics is actually hurting the country's future, then we have to be careful. That's what Nehru tried to admonish us. And of late, there are tendencies across the country where we are ignoring the long-term future of the country for the short-term political gain. And as custodians of India's future, I would urge you to look at it deeply. That's why I'm presenting some data before you. A government is created for these purposes: rule of law, that includes public order, justice, basic amenities, infrastructure, quality education, particularly at the school level, not merely spending money on education. We are spending a lot of money on education, but quality outcomes. In many states, outcomes are appallingly bad, I can tell you with complete authority. And quality health care. And sustainable natural resource development. This is the reason why humankind created a government. What we cannot do as individuals and as families, for the collective needs, we created an entity called government. We pay taxes, we elect our representatives, and they take care of the collective needs. What has happened in India is increasingly ignoring the collective tasks which individuals cannot perform and focusing entirely on the short-term individual welfare measures. Now, welfare is necessary in a democracy. Even in America, Joe Biden has waived loans of students. You cannot really carry the whole society with you unless you take care of the short-term needs. But if short-term needs dominate our policy and expenditure at the cost of the long-term good, then we are in grave crisis. That is my basic argument. Now, how are we faring here in these respects? If you have a cordless microphone, maybe I'll stand there so that they don't have to crane their necks. That will be helpful. Our tasks well enough so that we can focus on other things. I'm a great believer in the country. I'm an optimist. I believe we have done a lot as a country. But we also should recognize our deficiencies, that we have a long way to go. So whatever I say is not to disparage our country. I am a product of independent India, like many of you are, probably all of you are, most of you are. And we benefited from the process of independence and democratic governance. We have done a lot. We are an impossible country, an incredible country. It's a miracle that happened, making our democracy work, and many, many things that people thought were impossible in 47 happened. But nevertheless, there are unfinished tasks. That's the context in which I'm placing this data before you. I have taken some standard indicators of development. GDP per capita, life expectancy, infant mortality, maternal mortality, out-of-pocket expenditure on healthcare, expected years of schooling, average years of schooling, human development index, consumption of power per capita, employment in agriculture, which is a sign of backwardness, and labor force participation of women. On every single indicator, if you take the 50 largest economies of the world, I've simply taken the largest economies, $200 billion plus. India ranks in the bottom 5. Let me reiterate, I'm not saying it to disparage our country. This is just to highlight the fact that we have a long way to go in our basic tasks of governance. Now, without fulfilling these tasks, can we think of other things? Are we then building a future? Is that the reason why all of you and I are in public work, whether it's electoral politics or some other things? I want us to pause. That's the reason why this is a very sad slide, but we're improving in some areas. Infrastructure was bad earlier. Today it's improving. I'm sure in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, many indicators will do much better. But we have a long way to go. I want us to remember that every moment. The other countries in India's company, interestingly, are Pakistan. I don't even understand why we're fighting with Pakistan. We're really blood brothers. Bangladesh, Nigeria in Africa. The fifth country in the bottom 5 kept varying depending on the indicator. I don't want to go into these details, you know only too well. Rule of law, we know 5.2 crore cases pending. You and I know every day people come to you for settling disputes because nobody wants to go to your court because during their lifetime, the case will never be settled. And if your friend or family member comes to you saying that there is a dispute, shall I go to court? You will tell them why don't go to court. Either swallow injustice and suffer silently or pay off somebody to get some resolution. Now, a country which does not enforce rule of law cannot talk about other things. Just to give one example. And healthcare delivery is so poor in the country, despite some improvements in recent years. Every year, 5 crore people per year are descending into poverty because of healthcare failure. Education, I mentioned to you already, we are spending a lot of money on education. Andhra Pradesh spends 90,000 rupees per child, school-going child, per year. Telangana spends about 85,000. I think Mumbai city spends more than 1 lakh rupees per child. Maharashtra probably spends about 80, 85 overall across Maharashtra. 90. So even without knowing the data, I can tell you reasonably, this is not small numbers. What are the outcomes? Terrible. Terrible. We are one of the worst in the world. We don't need to be that. We don't need to be that. Only 20% of our children have a chance of fulfilling their potential. 80% just because of the circumstances of birth, the family in which they are born, parental education, money, private schooling or something else, even if they are bright, even if nature endowed them with talent, they have very little chance. So real welfare lies in education and healthcare, outcomes, not expenditure. Outcomes, not expenditure. And today, because some good things have happened in economic management in the past 30, 40 years, we are on the cusp of reasonably good economic growth. Among all the large countries, India seems to be having a realistic opportunity of 6 or 7% growth rate for the next 20, 30 years. But only if we do a few things right. And that's the context in which I thought I would interact with you. Growth rate of India is 6 to 7 for the next few years, and perhaps next 15, 20 years, if we do right things, seems to be very much in the anvil. But there is a risk of derailing India's growth prospects because we are spending money badly. Paisa mein Paramatma hai. You can't simply print currency. And you have seen what's happening in other countries, Venezuela, Argentina, Zimbabwe earlier. Our own neighbors of Pakistan and Sri Lanka and other countries are in deep despair because of bad economic management. Parts of India are already on the verge of that. We can do a lot better. We need to do a lot better. Revenue deficit is for day-to-day expenditure. Are you meeting that from the revenues, or are you borrowing to meet day-to-day expenditure? No family borrows to meet day-to-day expenditure, unless it's a bad family. But in our country, union government and state governments are borrowing. Many states, some states don't have to borrow, but many states are borrowing, but that minus indicates borrowing. The ones in pink are particularly bad. Significant amounts, 3.5% of GSTP is a very large sum. Because remember, the state's revenue on an average is about 7 to 8% of GSTP. Another 3-4% comes from Government of India by way of transfers. 2-3% comes by way of transfers. So if 8% revenues come, 3.5% you are spending in excess of revenue for day-to-day expenditure, you are in serious trouble. That means you are getting 1 lakh rupees income, you are spending 1,50,000 rupees a month. You don't require genius to understand that you are in serious trouble. Your future is bleak. That's happening in many states. It's not that the Government of India is flushed with funds. No, all of us, because of political reasons, it doesn't matter who is in power in the state or the union, we immediately blame Government of India. No, after all, we are a federal polity, we have politics, competition, etc. But the reality is, no matter who is the Prime Minister or who is the Chief Minister, Delhi doesn't have much money either. These are real numbers. Take the last one, 23-24 budget estimates. I've taken the actual numbers from the budget. And 22-23, real numbers are final. Revised estimates, 21-22 final numbers. Take the current year, 35,71,000 crores is the Government of India's total revenues. Of that, 20 lakh crores are going to states. Either Finance Commission devolution, many of you know, and also local governments get some money also in that, or the centrally sponsored schemes. 9,89,000 crores, no, sorry, 10,79,000 crores, 10,80,000 crores is the interest payment of Government of India. Another 7,38,000 crores are the salaries and pensions. Without doing anything for the people, these three heads, transfers to states, salaries and pensions, interest payments, already Government of India is in minus to the tune of 2,57,000 crores. If you take the Government of India's subsidies, fertilizer, food, other things, it is 8,69,000 crores deficit. So it's not that anybody has money. We're all in the same boat. The debt GDP ratio for a state and FRBM norms is about 20%, typically. That means your total debt of the state should not exceed 20% of the gross income of the state. Not government income, but gross GSDP, state development, domestic product. Punjab is at 50. All these are underestimates because these don't cover the hidden expenditure. For instance, there are some special purpose vehicles you borrow in their name, but they have no revenue, government has to repay. They're pretending for some time that it's not government debt. For instance, government gives guarantees to some commercial entities which are doing so badly that government has to cough up. For instance, government does not pay the bills. In many states, I'm sure you're aware, the contractors' bills are not paid for years. All that one day you have to pay. Sometimes arrears of salaries, pensions are not paid. One day you have to pay, but they're not showing on the record because you have not incurred the expenditure, unpaid bills. If you include all those, the debt burden is going up further. But I've taken the RBI data without including all those. Punjab reached 50%, 51% already. And you can see the list there. Orissa is a remarkable state. I hope there are some legislators from Orissa. Orissa is showing what even a relatively poor state can do by better management. Orissa is a great example. So it's not impossible. You must have the will. And Orissa government is also popular. They're getting elected for the 4th successive time. So you can actually get popularity, you can improve the state's condition, you can manage the finances better. It's not that one is at the cost of the other. Orissa is a great example. Telangana, it started in 2014 as a separate state with 1,16,000 crore surplus over 5 years. It had the highest surplus estimated during the 14th plan, by the 14th Finance Commission. All the surplus is wiped out. Telangana is in deficit, revenue deficit. On top of it, the new government that has assumed office last month has made an additional commitment of 1.2 to 1.3 lakh crores per year in one state. when already there is a deficit. Just to give one, because I know Telangana, I live in Telangana, I'm a Telanganite. I'm a voter in Telangana, so I was a legislator in combined Andhra Pradesh, so I understand the situation intimately. So this is the problem. You require welfare, but some measure of balance. Karnataka is actually a more healthy state, a richer state. The finances have been better managed. But at the change of government, Karnataka is more prudent than Telangana, but Karnataka also is quite reckless. 52,000 crores per year, they've accepted additional commitment. And Karnataka never went into overdrafts. You know, overdraft is on a day-to-day basis. If you don't have money to meet the bills, you borrow on that day. That's called overdraft. Karnataka never had overdrafts for years. For the first time, they had to go into overdrafts recently. Telangana never had overdrafts when it was formed. Last year, 328 days out of 365, they went into overdrafts. Literally on a day-to-day basis, unless you borrow that day, you're not able to meet the bills, whether salaries or something else. Not a happy condition. You can see the states. Tamil Nadu is a rich state, but its financial management is unfortunately less than happy. The red at the bottom, Tamil Nadu. The green at the top is Odisha. In between are AP and Telangana. I gave just a few states to give an idea of what's happening in terms of revenue deficits. Electricity sector is another sector I think all of you must pay attention to, because power sector is the single biggest loss-making entity. And you have to run the power sector. There's no choice. There are subsidies, hidden or real, and there's also bad management, whatever be the reason. And it's going to get more difficult because we are transitioning world over and in India to renewable energy grid. But please remember, we already have power purchase agreements with the old power plants, coal-based power plants. Now, money has been invested by the Gencos, by the government, or by the private sector. And that money has to be repaid. But you are switching over to renewable grid. And there are a lot of, I don't want to go into details for want of time, but because the base load stations still have to be maintained, suppose you go for solar power, nighttime who is going to give us power? So you still have to incur that cost to ensure power to society. So there is a natural cost all over the world. It's not specific to India. Already we are doing badly in power sector. In the next 10, 15, 20 years, we'll have to spend probably another 80 to 90 lakh crores in the country extra on power sector, at the very minimum. So it's only going to get worse. That's why I thought I would place this before you. Please pay attention to power sector. The current losses, why it's so, and future potential losses because of the transition to solar energy or renewable energy. Take the states. It gives you a variety of states. You take the states' own revenues, the tax monies and other fees they are raising on their own. What is the committed expenditure? That being salaries, pensions, and interest payments only. You will notice some states have gone to 200%. If 100 rupees is their revenue, 200 rupees is salary, pension, and interest payments. Himachal Pradesh. West Bengal is 156%. Punjab, 140%. Some states are better off. That line graph indicates the percentages for each state. Even if you take the Government of India transfers, I mentioned to you 20 lakh crores are transferred every year by Government of India. Even then, Punjab is 84%, including all revenues, only salaries, pensions, and interest payments. 84 rupees has gone. I'm not even talking of administrative cost. I'm not talking of subsidies and welfare, other things. Just salaries, pensions, interest payments. No chief minister has control over that. Those payments have to be made. There's no choice. Let me come to the last part of it. Some states, I'm not being party political, I'm making a point beyond politics, it's vital. Some states unwisely are trying to go back to the old pension system. I'm sure many of you are familiar. For those who are not familiar, I urge you to please pay attention in the interest of your state. Earlier, all over the world, there is a pension system. In America, they call it Social Security. Other states, other countries, some other name. But whatever it is, the pension is fully funded, paid for in advance. In America, for instance, each worker, government or private sector, pays 6.2% of the income as what is called payroll taxes. Your children, your friends, others will be there in US. Please ask them. Everybody pays. The moment you go to America, you get a social security number. And every month you pay that money. Your employer also pays equal money. And from that, pensions come. In India, unfortunately, pensions are available only to government employees. No matter how hard the people work in private sector, the vegetable vendors, the day-to-day, the unorganized workers, Hamalis, they get no social security. If the government gives as a part of welfare some small pension, that happens, that's all, nothing more. And government employees don't put a single rupee. Government does not put a single rupee on that day. But 30 years later, enormously growing pension burden is borne by the next generation taxpayers. And the pension burden is growing enormously because you not only linked it to prices, inflation, you also linked it to pay revision commissions. I'm sure many of you know, you take any job in government at the middle and lower level, forget the top level. A driver, let us say a clerk, a peon, or somebody else. The salaries in government are typically 3 to 4 times in private sector. A teacher. And it's growing further. And with each pay revision commission, it is growing. And you are linked it to the wage revision. Therefore, pension burden is dramatically growing. That is the old pension system. Both Vajpayee government and later Manmohan Singh government very wisely have gone for what is called the national pension system, where, like in other countries, from employee, you get 10%. Employer, the government, gives states 10%, most of them, some 14%, government of India 14%. Money is put there in advance. From that money, it's managed, it grows, from that pension comes, so that the future generation will not have to bear the cost of the earlier generation's services. For 19 years, it worked very well. It applied only to the employees recruited after 2004. Employees in government constitute only 3.2% of India's working population. 97% have no benefit, no social security. But parties, my appeal to you, I understand politics. I have great respect for the political process. But if parties yield to the temptation and fear in order to appease 3% of the workers, already you know very well as legislators, the hardest challenge is to make the employees work for the people. All your time, all your energy, day and night is consumed in somehow making something happen and getting the flack in return, getting the abuse. Forget that they are working or not working, they're indulging in corruption, forget that. But if for 3% of the people, 97% of the people have to pay exorbitant sums, destroying the future, is that right? Within your parties, within your states, legislatures, I ask of you to please think, look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. And if you wish, I'll send to MIT a whole literature on this subject, and they will share with you. Please think about that. It's a matter of life or death for this country and for our states. So what's happening? The pension burden, take 1990-91, it was 6% of the total revenues of the states. Now it has become 17%. Even as the incomes are rising for the governments, the share of pensions in the income is growing much faster. That is the problem. If you take states-owned revenues, it was 8% earlier, now it is 27% of the states-owned revenues, pensions alone. It's going to be now 80%, 90% after 20 years under the old pension system. It's a disaster. I see some young people here. You still have political future, 15, 20 years hence. I guarantee you, if your states embrace the old pension system, there's no reason to have assembly. There's no reason to have budget. It is finished. It's as simple as that. You take union, that also rose from 7.9% to 16.3%. You take the absolute numbers of all this is union, from 2004, in just about 17 years, it has become threefold. States, it has become 11-fold. 11-fold in 17 years, the pension increase. This is union, threefold, states, 11-fold, I mentioned to you. Now, other countries, as I told you, it is fully funded. India is the only exception. Other countries, you take, for instance, US on the right, 15% of the government revenues go towards pension, which is fully funded. It's not going into tax money, but 15%. Who are benefiting? 94% of the country is benefiting. India, how much is going? We are losing something like 18% of the government revenue. See on the left. How many people are benefiting? 3.2% are benefiting. 15% expenditure benefit to almost all the population. 18% expenditure benefit to only 3% of the population. Is that what we are elected for? Are these the people who we have to serve? This 3% or the 97% of the people who have elected you and who are paying taxes? You take US, the pension money on an average after retirement is about 25% of the per capita income. Because it's not meant to keep you in comfort. It's meant to make sure that you don't have serious distress. Otherwise, you have your own savings, your own investments. India, it is 2.77 times the per capita income. So we have generous pension for a small number without even providing the funds in advance. That's the reason why we are getting into this crisis. Same thing, what happens in future? Andhra Pradesh did a lot of work. Right now, in states' own revenues, their committed expenditure is 121%. If old pension system is taken up, it will become 294% by 2050. 3 times the total revenues of the state because of the pension burden. Similarly, total revenue, same thing. Now it is about 68%. It will be 463% by the end of the century. It will be 165% by 2050. Fiscal deficit, which is now at 3.5%, it will become 10% if it's allowed. It will not be allowed. There will be a financial emergency. The state will simply come to a grinding halt. The debt burden, which is now at 45%, will grow to be 197%. Again, it will not be allowed. But if it's allowed to go unchecked, that's the end of the story. That gives you an idea of what's going to happen in the country. So for this, there are luckily our founding fathers, Dr. Ambedkar and the Constituent Assembly made provisions. And Article 293, so we have to create mechanisms to make sure that we follow that. Basically 2 rules. Whatever you spend on a day-to-day basis, salaries, pensions, interest payments, subsidies, welfare, let it be within the revenues of the state, not borrowed money. That's what families do. A reasonable thing is called the golden rule by the economists. And 2, make sure that this decision is not made by a political party or bureaucracy controlled by a political party, because if Modi's government does it, if a party of another party is in power in the state, there will be always suspicion. Let us make it independent. Either the finance commissioner or some other body. There are many details. I don't want to go into that. In Britain, there's an Office of Budget Responsibility. In America, there's a Congressional Budget Office. There is a proposal to have a fiscal council in India. There's a proposal to have Finance Commission itself being made permanent and taken. But make it independent so that at least that is taken out of day-to-day politics and the future is secure. I don't want to do more, but the best way to promote welfare, let me reiterate this point and close. Welfare is necessary, but the best way of promoting welfare is quality education and skills and quality health care. We are doing very badly in both. Education, we are spending a lot of money, but very poor outcomes. Some of the worst in the world. Out of 74 countries surveyed in something called PISA, an international survey of students at the age of 15, you know where India ranked? 73rd. Luckily, there was a country called Kyrgyzstan in that list. They took the last position. We deserve better. Our kids are bright. Our parents sacrifice a lot. Our government spends a lot of money. Our society values education. Give good education and skills. That is the best way to end poverty and earn the appreciation of the people. Guarantee good health care so there is no out-of-pocket expenditure. That is the guaranteed welfare. You'll get the political return in the form of people's gratitude and votes, and the country will prosper. There is need for welfare, but the right kind of welfare and in the right kind of way. And it's a very difficult thing. All over the world in democracies, the short-term political price you have to pay to maintain fiscal prudence, to balance the budget carefully for the future, versus the long-term public good that you promote. It's a challenge, but that's what the art of leadership is. Some leaders do it well, and therefore they get the political appreciation. They also ensure the future of the state. If you don't do it well, the future is doomed. I'm a great optimist. I believe that this country has immense opportunities, irrespective of which party is in power where, and we owe it to our people to do a lot better, because you're all here as legislators because you care. There's no reason for you to be legislators, because you have this bug, kuch karna hai. And you want to have the satisfaction that you made a difference. This is the greatest difference that we can make. Thank you very much. The floor is open to questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And now the forum is open for discussions. And I request kindly turn on the mic in front of you only when you are talking to avoid any technical problems, and we can take the questions one by one.
Thank you. This is Ajay Dutt from Delhi Aam Aadmi Party. I'm very glad and thankful that you have given a very good insight about what is happening in terms of our budget and where are we spending, and also on the pension part of it. So I think, as you said several times, that the education is very important, and as a party, Aam Aadmi Party has given a lot of emphasis on the education. And just to give you a small journey of Aam Aadmi Party, when we started, our budget was 31,000 crores. And in this 9 years, today our budget is more than 76,000 crores. And apart from the what we call that, the center give the tax. And we have spent, our Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal ji was very clear that we will work on 4 important aspects of bringing changes of anybody's life in Delhi. And the first was the education. So every year on year, we spend 25% of the total budget only in education. And I would love to share the result of what we got out of it. So in last 5 years, after the education system got strengthened, we have 10th class board result from 80% to 97%, which is 15% over and above, and it is across India. And 12th class result, which is again board result, from 90% to 97.2%. And I would like to tell the entire forum, मैं हिंदी में भी बोल देता हूँ, मैं यहाँ सभी को बता देना चाहता हूँ कि ये 5.3% का जो रिजल्ट आया है वो इंडिया के सारे प्राइवेट स्कूलों से भी ज़्यादा आया है, क्योंकि हमने 25% शिक्षा पे बजट खर्च किया था. जब हमने शिक्षा पे बजट खर्च किया तो उसमें टीचर्स आते हैं, उनकी ट्रेनिंग के लिए हमारी पार्टी के मुखिया अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ने उन्हें वर्ल्ड की बेस्ट कॉलेजेस में, हार्वर्ड में, स्टैनफोर्ड में, आईआईएम में, कैम्ब्रिज में ट्रेनिंग के लिए भेजा, क्योंकि दे आर द सेम टीचर, राइट, एंड वी हैव एक्चुअली गिवन देम लॉट ऑफ ट्रेनिंग एंड दे एक्चुअली डिड द गुड जॉब. तो शिक्षा में इतना बड़ा ड्रामेटिक चेंज लेके आए क्योंकि वहाँ बजट पूरा दिया गया था. उसके बाद फिर हेल्थ में बहुत बड़े बड़े काम किए. तो हमारे हेल्थ मिनिस्टर सत्येंद्र जैन जी हुआ करते थे पहले. उन्होंने मोहल्ला क्लिनिक का एक नया इन्वेंशन किया और वो हर एक 1000 घर के ऊपर एक मोहल्ला क्लिनिक बनाया. उसमें सारी दवाइयाँ फ्री, सारे ब्लड के टेस्ट फ्री किए और 17% ऑफ द टोटल बजट वी हैव गिवन ओनली फॉर द हेल्थ. और इसीलिए दिल्ली के बहुत सारे सरकारी हॉस्पिटलों का जीर्णोद्धार किया, वहाँ पे अच्छे काम हुए. और आज पूरी इंडिया में अगर आप दिल्ली आके देखें, आई इनवाइट ऑल द मेंबर्स टू कम फॉरवर्ड, कम टू आवर मोहल्ला क्लिनिक, कम टू आवर गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल. आपको वहाँ बहुत बड़े बड़े चेंजेस दिखेंगे. फिर एक और इनोवेशन किया कि भाई पब्लिक को और क्या चाहिए. तो फर्स्ट टाइम इन दी इंडियन हिस्ट्री, मैं आप सभी को दोबारा बताना चाहता हूँ, पहली बार इंडिया की हिस्ट्री में किसी स्टेट ने 200 यूनिट बिजली फ्री की. और उससे एक बहुत बड़ा चेंजेस हुआ कि जो लोग ज़्यादा बिजली कंज्यूम कर रहे थे उन लोगों ने, देखिए ये हमारे लिए एक्सचेंज का है ना.
अजय जी थोड़ा
एक मिनट बट कंप्लीट कर रहा हूँ.
हाँ.
मैं देखिए ऐसा है, आई एम वेरी अपसेट अबाउट इट कि आप लोग इस तरीके की बातें कर रहे हैं इस फोरम में जहां पे हम एक्सचेंज की बात कर रहे हैं.
Talk about the party, okay? This is not a political forum. We are here to about express our feelings,
हाँ
and
जी, हाँ जी.
our thoughts in different
तो
ways.
आप
So
अजय
don't-
अजय जी
don't-
अजय जी
I-
अजय जी एक मिनट
I request everyone
एक मिनट अजय जी let's get to the issues
ठीक है, मैं आता हूँ.
because the political pointing of
चलिए.
course we have the whole world and the entire world.
मैं कर लेता हूँ, लेकिन मुझे बड़ा दुख के साथ कहना पड़ रहा है कि अपनी बात भी नहीं कहने दे रहे और जो कि सबको पता है.
No,
तो anyway, अभी मैं I'll come back to my issue today is that of course you have rightly pointed out that there is a problem giving old pension, right? What I'm saying is that when US can create an ecosystem of giving 95% plus people as a good social security as a pension, why can't India do that, right? And what this government servant has done any wrong in their whole life, and after that if they don't get the pension, what will happen after they complete their 60 years, where they will go and beg and borrow?
We'll discuss that. But just one comment, last comment, I cannot leave it unaddressed. Everybody in the country needs security. It is not the employees of government alone who are working. What about the vegetable vendor? What about the hard-working agricultural worker? What about the plumber? What about the electrician that serves you? They are actually providing real services without which you cannot survive. I was a district magistrate. I was a secretary to government. I don't think anybody ever said in India, if district magistrate is not there, my life will suffer. But if a plumber is not there, my life will suffer. So security is not the prerogative of government employees. And security cannot come from the taxpayers. It has to come from the funding in advance by the employer and the employee. Nobody is arguing that pension should not be there. We are saying pension should not be a burden on the nation and the next generation to destroy our finances. That's the only point. So please don't go by this argument that 3% people will suffer and therefore let 97% people suffer to make them very happy. I myself was a government employee. I have nothing against government employees, but this is a very dangerous approach, unacceptable approach.
Sorry to interfere in between. Just
The
one
national
moment.
pension system is already there. A funded pension. The government and the employee put the money in advance. From that pension is drawn so that there's no burden on the future. The solution is already there. We have to implement it, that's all.
quick.
And scheme which you are talking about, I know many people who are getting pension of 1700 rupees, 1900 rupees. What does it mean?
That's not true. You're confusing between what is called EPS. That's a different issue altogether. Once you put, we'll
I
come to
am
that.
really
later.
sorry
We'll go
to
to the-
interfere.
Yeah.
Sir, excuse me,
Yes, sir.
just one moment.
Yes.
In between, we have shared a form with you, and this is just to convey your interest in participating any of the NLC Bharat committees. If you are interested, kindly fill up the form. Our volunteers will collect it. And request, kind and humble request to everyone to kindly ask one-line questions so that everyone can get a chance.
Hi, this is Somnath
Well,
Bharti. Can I ask a question?
Sir, एक minute, sir. May I would request Amit Kumar Mandal ji, Nagraj Yadav ji, and Vijay Dharani ji, and then we'll come this side, sir. I've noted Somnath Bharti ji and Ganesh ji. उसके बाद में one round. I've identified 6 questioners. उसके बाद we will ask Amit Kumar ji.
Few quick points. Will freebie politics work in long term? First point. Is FRBM limit a realistic limit, or it is played upon in the state budget? Can any constitutional amendments be done to stop politically motivated schemes? Say, for example, if one government turns down old pension scheme, other government comes up and reinitiate the old pension scheme. Can any constitutional amendments be done so that the financial budget of a state or a country is intact? And last, is borrowing good or bad? Some economists say borrowing is good. Some economists say borrowing is bad. If you take example of NHAI, they take a lot of money from foreign institution and they deliver services in terms of good road, and then they get the return back as well. So my 4 quick points would be pertaining to these 4 points which I have raised. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit Kumar ji.
The first point I didn't get.
Freebie politics, will it work in long term, or is it bad for the economy?
If you ask him to talk on this mic, we can get the cordless and we can just move around.
Nagraj Yadav ji, please.
Thank you so much. I am very happy and thankful for Jai Prakash Naran ji. We made a beautiful presentation. And mic is on. Anyway, I am very happy to hear and the presentation made by the retired IAS officer and a politician by himself he was. And it's a wonderful that to hear, and you made a real-time picture of economics of India today. Coming to the idea of talking about one section is called about 3% people who are getting pension. The other side, I'm coming from the state of Karnataka. My name is Nagaraj. I represent as an MLC from the Karnataka Legislative Assembly. I myself, an educationalist who run many educational institutions, I know what's happening in the society too, because educational institutions, we can get a lot of data, because the section of people comes from across the communities. The idea now is the Karnataka state government has come forward and said very clearly, universal basic income of every person. This is what is required in a country like this, which has got a huge difference between the rich and the poor. To get a basic income, in America we call it as a social security of every person. Somebody contributes for it 6% and goes on like that. But India has got a different problem. The population rate is very high, and we have 140 crore people, where we have to come out with an idea of universal basic income of a person, whether he is having the job or not, whether he is a government employee or not, whether he is organized sector or not, whether he is unorganized sector or not. We are all worried about what was he talking about it? Organized sector is always comfortable because that has been structured program for them, whether it's a matter of businesses, whether a matter of employment, whether a matter of bank loan, whether a matter of budgeting. It is organized sector which has been addressed of. What happened to the sector which is in big number called what we spoke about, unorganized sector? Maybe it's a vegetable seller or a cobbler on the road or a saloon person should also be addressed, because he's got a right to live a dignified life in India. Now the matter comes here whether we believe in a federal system of this country where we have a state budget as well as we have a union budget. But the states, I'm coming to a question.
Please.
I'm asking a question straight to him.
Yeah.
Now, every political party we said is making a budget, and it is headed by a prime minister or a finance minister or the state chief minister. The point is here, there's a mechanism behind the chief minister is the finance department, where IAS officers are sitting there. They should be aware of this. Politically, whatever I or anybody can say, But there is an Indian Administrative Service officers who are there, who are running as a finance secretary is there. Why are they not having a Lakshman Rekha of saying that you cannot borrow this? Why they can't dictate these things to the, because we work under the constitution. Because to safeguard the interest of the people, the finance department or the secretary working behind the chief minister should come out and say that this is not allowed to borrow.
Very valid.
Every country is borrowing, every state is borrowing, and every union budget itself is a deficit budget. Every time it's a deficit budget just because the populist programs are there and a section of people. Now there is a misconception also. I take 1 minute extra. They say that income tax people are the only taxpayers. No. Every 140 crore people are paying the tax to this country, and everybody are entitled to get a union minimum of common income for him. And the scheme now it's been called, no more it is called as a, what is called freebies. It has been called as empowerment of a family or a woman. So having said this, financial budgets, how long India can sustain a state or a union at deficit budget? Where is an end for it? Where is the Lakshman Rekha for it?
Thank you very much. We get the question. Vijay Dharini ma'am, please.
Sir, I'm a MLA from, a three-time MLA from Tamil Nadu. So I think I better let me be visible. I'm a three-time MLA from Tamil Nadu, Kanyakumari district. And of course, sir, I'm in consonance with you that contributory pension, you mean that contributory pension is the only way out to come out of this problem. I do agree in many lines with you. But sir, to implement it, it becomes very difficult. Whichever state they have implemented it, they are facing problem with the government employees. Every now and then there is strike. There is a lot of strike, particularly in Tamil Nadu also we are facing a lot of opposition from the government employees. Percentage is very less, no doubt about it. But so they act as a machinery in the whole system. So how to find a via media? Can the center enact something? Because the central government employees are still enjoying the facility. So they themselves are not being brought under the contributory pension, I suppose. The central government, it's already there under NPS. So in such a case, in the states, we are facing a lot of issues. And that too, when there are other governments which is not in consonance with the center, we are facing much more problems to continue with the NPS. The contributory scheme becomes very difficult and they wanted back the old pension scheme, which some parties, for the sake of elections, are assuring, yes, we'll bring now, we'll bring then. But it becomes so impossible to bring it back, according to me. Now that, can there be any via media solution, particularly to the state government? Central government can be adamant. Definitely, they have to be adamant in the welfare of the nation. They have to be adamant. They have to continue the NPS. They have to do it. But when it comes to the states, when it's a federal system in our country, we need to appreciate the various other parties that are ruling in rest of India. So the state governments are facing issues with their state government employees. So what is the via media solution to this?
Thank you,
How to combat this and still
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
implement
We
the
get the
contributory
issue.
pension?
Thank you very much, ma'am. Somnath Bharti ji.
Thank you, sir. What Nagaraju ji said about the officers stopping the governments from overspending, that's happening in Delhi, sir. Under the guidance from BJP, it's happening in Delhi. So possibly the control of officers should be in the hands of another political party. That will stop them. But sir, my question to you is, see, you, JP Saab, you have been somebody across the nation, people looks up to you for various policies, discussions, data analysis. You do it beautifully. But who will influence whom? Electorates? Will influence political party, or political party will influence electorates? How to start this good governance practice which you're talking about? How to start? Can you give a SOP which every political party should follow? Because at the end of the day, it is to win election. So whether you have to give free ration to 80 crore people, and you call that I have developed Bharat in last 10 years, that's another myth which we all have to buy. So you need to somehow evolve a policy whereby how to start, who will build the cat?
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Dr. Ganesh, Mr. Ganesh Chandra ji.
अशोक जी, later.
एनएलसी परिवार को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सबसे पहले तो दूसरा हम लोगों के क्षेत्र में जो समस्या है
एक सभा में एक बार बोलिए या
सर உங்களுக்கு தமிழ் தெரியும்
सबसे पहले तो एनएलसी परिवार को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आभार इस परिवार में अपने आप को पाकर धन्यवाद ज्ञापित करता हूँ
सर गणेश
दूसरा विषय ये है कि ये जो सदन चलता है सदन में समय थोड़ा और बढ़ाना चाहिए सदन का जो टाइमिंग है वो अभी 1 सप्ताह 10 दिन में उसको 15 से 20 दिन करना चाहिए सदन चलने से समस्याओं का निवारण होता है उन समस्याओं से अधिकारियों में भय रहता है कभी भी हम सब लोकतंत्र के वाहक हैं हम सब जो समस्याओं को रखेंगे अधिकारियों के कान तक जाएगा वो उसका निवारण होगा जिससे हम जनता के प्रति जवाबदेही अपनी तय कर सकेंगे और धरातल पर निचले स्तर पर अगर जैसे उत्तर प्रदेश का उदाहरण मैं देना चाहता हूँ जिला मुख्यालय स्तर पर तो बहुत सुधार आ गया है अधिकारियों में भ्रष्टाचार के प्रति जागरूकता है वो कहीं से भी वो करप्शन नहीं दिखाई देता है लेकिन निचले स्तर पर वो ब्लॉक लेवल तहसील लेवल चौकी लेवल पे निचले स्तर पे वो कमियां हैं उसके प्रति एक इस एनएलसी परिवार से मैं आग्रह करूंगा कि उस पर थोड़ा सा ध्यान देकर कुछ ऐसा सजेस्ट करें जिससे उसका निवारण हो सके जो निचले स्तर पे उसका निवारण हो सके बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद
केतकी सिंह जी you had a question and then राजेश राठौड़ जी I'll come back to you afterwards मेरा एक ही रिक्वेस्ट है कि कम समय है प्लीज शॉर्टली आप प्रश्न पूछिए 1 सेकेंड सर मैं केतकी सिंह जी राजेश राठौड़ जी फिर वहाँ सर और फिर वहाँ सर मैं आ रहा हूँ
Hello everyone, I am Ketki Singh from बलिया उत्तर प्रदेश and मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा सर जो आपने यहाँ पे स्पीच रखा विथ योर डेटा एंड ऑल द थिंग्स बट व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट द फ्रीबीज और द गिफ्ट्स फॉर द पब्लिक इन टुडेज पॉलिटिक्स आई रियली वांट टू नो कभी कभी हम लोग अपने में भी सोचते हैं एज अ इंडिविजुअल या एज अ सिटीजन ऑफ इंडिया दैट जब हम लोग ये गिफ्ट दे रहे हैं तो इससे हमारे बजट के ऊपर हमारे गवर्नमेंट के ऊपर कितना इसका भार आता होगा इन फ्री गिफ्ट्स का बट आज की पॉलिटिक्स में इन टुडे इट्स नॉट पॉसिबल एट ऑल कि आप इसे कट के और एक अपने अलग आप फंडामेंटल उस पर आप चल सकते हैं तो मैं आपसे जानना चाहती हूँ सर कि हाउ टू सर्वाइव इन दिस गिफ्ट गिविंग एरा टू मैनेज द सेम बार the first question is mine is this and the second one is कि when we talk about the education yes of course I also agree that the future of the country is depend upon the education पर जब हम बजट की बात करते हैं हम लोग इतना बजट देते भी हैं तो भी क्यों नहीं हमारा वो आउटकम आ पा रहा है क्योंकि जहाँ से मैं आती हूँ उत्तर प्रदेश पहले हम अंडर डेवलप्ड स्टेट थे नाउ वी आर इन डेवलपिंग स्टेट हमारे यहाँ 63 मेडिकल कॉलेजेस हमने खोल लिए हैं और हमारे यह है कि हम 75 जिलों में अपना एक मेडिकल कॉलेज खोल लें बट टुडे ऑल्सो वी फील कि कुछ तो कमी कहीं है जिसको हमको सुधारना चाहिए इतना बजट देने के बाद भी तो आई जस्ट वांट टू नो योर थॉट्स हाउ टू हैंडल दिस एजुकेशन बजट for more betterment and the one statement the last statement I know this is something personal, but I want to mention it. You say that Pakistan is our brother, right? And I know that the subject is dynamite and I'm going to touch it, but then also, how we are going to believe that this kind of bichu, हम लोग एक स्टोरी सुनते हैं वो बार बार वो बिच्छू हाथ पर लेकर जाता है और बिच्छू उसको डंक मार देता है तो कैसे हम अपने इस बिच्छू पे अब इतने सालों के बाद भी हम यकीन कर सकते हैं तो दीज ऑल आर माय क्वेश्चन आई थिंक यू वुड नेवर माइंड
थैंक यू सर यहाँ ही है देश में उनसे भी बचना है हम लोग
सर
एक सेकंड एक क्विक रिस्पांस दे देंगे सर
आई कांट हियर यू
एक सेकंड
कई बिच्छू देश में भी है उनसे बचना है
वही तो कोशिश कर रहे हैं
सोमनाथ जी
अच्छा दिल्ली से बाहर नहीं निकल पा रहा है बिच्छू
केतकी सिंह जी
पंजाब से चलेगा नेशनल पार्टी बन गए
एक मिनट प्लीज
हम लोग आएंगे 24 में साहब
शांति बनाए रखिए।
सोमनाथ जी प्लीज प्लीज हम लंच पे
He
इकट्ठे बैठेंगे
started all the things. No, no,
लंच
no.
लंच पे
हम लोग
इकट्ठे
इतनी
बैठेंगे
पार्टीज के यहाँ बैठे
नहीं,
हैं।
मैडम।
हम लोग
मैडम,
इतनी
please,
पार्टीज के यहाँ
please, ये-
बैठे
please,
हैं। But जिस
please।
तरह से ये
नहीं, कोई
बिहेवियर हो रहा है,
Lunch-
this is not right at all.
लंच पे इसको इत्याद करेंगे
No, they are called, the nation knows who's the
मैम
bichu here.
मैम प्लीज मैम कैन वी बेनिफिट
Only a minute. Not nation, all are nation. Only you are talking to, that is called nation. Which is good.
A kind request
what?
to
You are
kindly
not,
maintain the
you do
decorum.
not believe that you are a part of a
Children, please
nation.
take it outside.
You do not believe that
Kindly-
you are a part of a nation.
Excuse me,
Don't
madam.
believe that you are a part of a
KK Singh,
nation.
ma'am.
Children,
Ma'am,
please take it outside.
please. This is something that let's kind of benefit from
Please take it
from the
outside.
speaker's knowledge. Sir, 2 minutes रुक जाइए. We will have a quick round of responses.
Sir, let us be only to the finances,
Yes.
not to the neighbors or foreign
No,
affairs.
it doesn't matter.
Because
No,
We
please.
are only talking about
Let's
India
keep-
and India economy.
Let's keep relevant to the talk here. Sir, I'll come back to the questions. Quick responses. Quick responses, please.
Please
conclude.
Dr. Jaiprakash Narayan.
मैं बात करूं सर अभी
क्या बात करो?
मैं राजेश
डॉक्टर जयप्रकाश नारायण रिस्पांस दे देंगे इन प्रश्नों का फिर एक और राउंड क्वेश्चन लेंगे
प्लीज कंक्लूड मेरा खत्म करके ले लो
2 मिनट सर
I'll come back to you.
Let us,
So that
let
we
us
don't forget.
welcome Honorable Sri Rahul V. Karad, sir. Let us welcome.
Sir, I'll have a minute of yours, please, in this connection.
I will briefly respond to, I'll come to you, sir.
Thank you.
Give me just a minute. First of all, I don't like to use the word freebies, that's insulting. I would call them individual short-term welfare measures. They are necessary. My argument is they are necessary. I'm only pleading for a balance. If you insult our people and say freebies, CAO, it's not right. You're all in politics. We have the realities of India. Mass poverty and extreme pain is there. We have to address both. I'm only making a plea for a balance. So let's not use the word freebies. That's why I'm coining an expression ISW, individual short-term welfare measures, as opposed to long-term collective good. That's all I'm pleading. FRBM Act, actually it's a good law. I see many people are worried, kya kar sakte hain and all that. We already done a lot of work. Constitution makers did fantastic work. Article 293 is the foundation. Article 362 about financial emergency is the foundation. 362 says the credit of the union, credit of India, and the financial stability of the country are the union's responsibilities. As a part of that, Article 293 says every debt incurred by a state must be approved by Government of India, not for political reasons, to ensure fiscal rectitude. And our leaders did a great job already. Both Atal Bihari Vajpayee at the age of 80, what does he have to lose or gain? He thought of the future. Dr. Manmohan Singh at the age of 75, what does he have to lose? Both of them already did all the work in respect to the pension system, both the parties. We are now reversing it quite unnecessarily. A system is already in place. The answer is, Ajay Sahib is asking, if a state wants to go for old pension system, I personally believe it is their right, but provided they do not burden the future. Therefore, put the money upfront today. What you're going to pay 30 years later on discounted cash flow basis, you calculate the amount and put the money now, so that the expenditure is incurred today. You cannot make a commitment 30 years hence from the future tax money without having to pay it today. If that one rule is followed, everything else will fall in place. Nobody is saying the states have no power. States are, in my judgment, sovereign. I have been always a fighter for local government and states' powers and federalism. But federalism and local governments do not mean fiscal irresponsibility and driving the country to bankruptcy. I'm sorry. That power nobody has, nobody should have. Karnataka, UBA, Nagaraj Saab made some very important points. I agree with you. We have to look at the long-term social security for all people. And we must start it. There are some, it can't happen in one day. It will take about 20, 25 years. But the starting point should be pooling all the welfare programs into one account. We have now myriad schemes. Put them all together, Government of India and states. Once you pool it, then you can decide who are the people entitled, then start transferring on the basis of per family or per individual. The second is, as somebody rightly mentioned, I think Nagaraj only, we have a large unorganized sector. I think Karnataka MLC, Vijay Saab, I think, mentioned. We have 82% of the workers of India are in the unorganized sector, not knowing where tomorrow's meal is going to come, not knowing where next month's income is going to come. You cannot have a viable social security system unless the bulk of the people are in the organized sector, because the employee through the payrolls, employer as a part of the commitment must be able to contribute. Therefore, if we start the process now, initially government may take some responsibility. And if we increasingly create more organized workforce rather than unorganized workforce, and if we pool the existing welfare mechanisms, then in 25 years' time, not less than that, we will reach there. Let's begin the process now. I'm glad you raised the issue, sir. And I think we have to begin the process now. About IAS Lakshman Rekha, you have MLAs and MLAs, you have ministers and ministers, you have IAS officers and IAS officers. In Telangana state, and very senior people are telling me what happened. For 2 years, some good public servants genuinely tried to protect the finances and prevented the government from becoming careless. They brought somebody who is much more pliable. He drove the state to ruin. So ultimately, unless there are rules which are impartially applied, and unless we adhere to that discipline, merely officers controlling a government is neither possible nor even desirable. At the end of the day, the government is elected, not the officers. I have absolutely no doubt about it. The rest, ultimately, the power and responsibility should be with the elected government, not with the officers. Officers are there to assist you. And after all, if officers don't listen to you, even when they give good advice, you can throw them out. So that doesn't really help beyond a point. But having said that, I do agree, officers are not doing their job. But that's a different story, how to make them accountable. Via media, I completely agree. Andhra Pradesh government has come up with something, Government of India is now planning something. The problem with the national pension system, contributory pension system, is there is no floor. Supposing you guarantee a floor, whatever happens to the economy, even if the stock market collapses, you will not get less than this. That's possible. Without burdening the future with minimal cost, you can actually make that happen. Some states have begun the process, and we can all put our heads together and figure out a solution whereby, after all, employees are our employees. You're absolutely right, Ketkiji. You cannot, after all, you cannot fight with your instruments. Only a bad workman complains against his tools. You have to make the employees work, good, bad, ugly, they are there. Even if there's a revolution, employees do not go anywhere. Therefore, we have to create a floor. Some via media approach is possible without ruining the future. Who will bell the cat? Somnathji asked a very important question. As I said, Somnathji, already we are very privileged. Sometimes we forget how lucky we are as a country. Yeah. The constitution makers provided for that. Very few countries did it. K.M. Munshi in the Constituent Assembly debate said, as far as the financial integrity of the country is concerned, India is whole. There is no debt to the state, there is no debt to the union. There is a general government debt. Somebody asked the question, what about the debt? To what extent is debt sustainable? Already, just about last month, the IMF came out with a statement saying that India's total government debt, union and states put together, is going to cross the GDP. I want you to understand what it actually means. If it crosses 100%, already we are at 90% by the way, 85 to 90%. The interest rate for the union is typically 8%, for the states is 10%. Some states are borrowing at 11, 12%, recklessly. Now, on 100% of the GDP, the interest burden will be 8 to 9%. The total revenues of governments in India, union and states put together, are 18% of the GDP. 50% of the money going only to interest payments or past debts. Imagine the consequences. That's the reason why there has to be a ceiling on the debt limit. As the GDP rises, debt also will increase, but not unrelated to GDP. Reckless debt means destruction, no future. Only thing is you will not see it today. For instance, OPS, why are governments recklessly, pardon my language, I don't mean to be offensive, why are they recklessly promising? Because you don't have to pay the bill today. 25 years later, देखेंगे कौन आएगा, कौन जीतेगा, कौन मरेगा. But 25 years later is there. 2004, the new recruits will retire in 2035 or 2040. Therefore, all the destruction will happen in 2035, not today. Luckily, government of India did at least one thing right. They said the pension already contributed will not be given back to the states. You have no right over that. Otherwise, what would have happened? There would have been a perverse incentive. Not only are you damaging the future, you also get the Mla of the current savings with you to spend more money at the cost of the future. House, more time to discuss. I completely agree with you, sir. Right now, in many states, average is 21 days. The assemblies are meeting. Some states, 15 days. Some states are meeting only twice a year, 1 or 2 days per year, because Constitution said you shall meet once in 6 months and you shall approve the budget. I really feel very sympathetic to the legislators because people abuse politicians. I always tell them politicians have a thankless task. They are victims of a vicious cycle. Blaming them is easy. Sitting outside and throwing stones is very easy. But we created a monstrous system where politicians are bearing the burden of democracy and getting the blame without the ability to change it. Finally, welfare, Ketkiji asked this question. How do we manage? Certainly, in a democracy, I maintain, you have to have welfare. Otherwise, you like it or not, if a party says no welfare, that party will lose the deposits. It's a fact of life. So all I'm saying is, if at least welfare as it is currently is not increased dramatically, like for instance, Telangana, 1,20,000 crores per year additional burden suddenly. If at least you freeze the current level, restructure it, or the growth rate of welfare expenditure is less than the economic growth rate. In a growing economy, luckily we are a growing economy, we're not like Europe or America, at least Europe, where economy is stagnating. And once you are developed and many people are elderly, then economy stagnates, Japan for instance. Whereas in India, we are a growing economy. At least if the welfare growth is limited to or less than the growth rate, in 3-4 years' time, what happens in 5 years' time? You would have noticed in 5 years in your respective states, the budgets, no, Aam Aadmi Party gentleman proudly talked about how the budget has grown from 37,000 crores to 75,000 crores. It's natural in a growing economy. So the ratio of expenditure and welfare becomes more manageable. So it's not a hopeless condition. I'm a very optimistic person. A, we have constitutional and legal tools, and B, we have a growing economy. Let us use a bit of wisdom, a bit of restraint. It's not such an impossible task. That's why I cited the example of Orissa. Orissa is not a very rich state. Orissa, for several years, decades, was equated with UP, Bihar, etc., the poorer states in terms of economic development, etc. How is it that in Orissa there is political stability, popularity of the government, improvement of outcomes? I can give you data showing improvement, actual verifiable improvements, and financial stability. It is possible. I'm not saying it's easy. Leadership in a poor country is never easy. In a diverse country, it's never easy, but it's possible. And we must aim at that. Educational outcomes, I would only say one thing. More money is not the answer. Certainly, what AAP is doing in Delhi, etc., infrastructure is welcome, but already we are spending lakhs of crores of rupees. The real challenge is not infrastructure, it's outcomes. Outcomes will happen if you do something radical. Certainly, we have to improve the textbooks, we have to give training, you have to all that. But who asked you not to do it so far? I have no confidence that that will happen just because we say so now. The strength of our country is the demand side is very strong. Hindu ya Muslim, rich or poor, urban or rural, illiterate or educated, every family wants their children to do well. We want success. But we define success badly. Third-rate examination system, which don't really measure skills and understanding, but rote learning, copy, and mass copying. And therefore, the whole system is geared towards getting marks and ranks based on rote learning and mass copying. In Uttar Pradesh, some years ago, I remember watching with horror on a television channel. Your education minister put on the dock, I believe the government decided to stop copying. A channel fellow was asking him, if you stop copying, how will poor fellows pass? You are against the poor. The minister said, no, I'm not against the poor. You know, what a shame. What a disgrace. If you have simply a sensible examination system which measures your understanding and application of knowledge without any room for copying, and there are ways of doing it, there's no time to go into that. I am guaranteeing that everybody else, the parents, the teachers, the students, the coaching institutions, everybody will figure out a way of getting outcomes. We are good at getting outcomes. But you define the outcome well and measure it well. I would say that is the easiest and best path. Many more things need to be done. But this is the central issue because demand is very strong. India desperately wants education for its children. So there are answers. My remark about Pakistan, apart from the fact that we're all ethnically the same, I'm saying we're all in the same boat. We're in the bottom 5. I was just joking. So don't take it as a political remark or a foreign policy remark. And I truly believe that ultimately Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, if all of us prosper together, everybody is better off.
Sir, we have
Nagraj sir, request.
Sir,
one small clarification is that Karnataka is the only state calling itself as having a basic concept in finances as basic, universal basic income. Why not the other states also? Why not the government of India? Because universal basic income is a must for 140 crore people. What is the comment about it? I would like to ask him.
Sir, we are unfortunately run out of time. My request.
Sir,
Sir, please.
Just a minute.
My request, sir. My request, please.
Okay. So, as I mentioned, I approve it. But if you start the process now, it will take 20-25 years. The first point is let Karnataka pool all the welfare measures into one kitty, then start distributing family-wise. That will be starting. Then let's work with Government of India. There are a lot of complex technical issues. Food subsidy, how are you going to change it? For instance, government of fertilizer subsidy, how are you going to put it into cash? There are all kinds of problems. But slowly we must begin to grapple with the problem.
Sir, keeping in mind that many of our
Only 1 minute. Only 1 minute.
Sir, please.
Only
My
1
request to
minute.
you is
1
my
minute
request-
only. Only 1 minute. Sir, only 1 minute.
And sir, I had stopped Rajesh ji to ask his question. We'll come to you next, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
नमस्कार, मेरा नाम राजेश राठौड़ है। मैं एमएलसी महाराष्ट्र विधान परिषद और मैं डॉक्टर जयप्रकाश नारायण जी का धन्यवाद करना चाहूँगा कि कुछ ऐसी बातें आपने सच्चाई हमारे सामने रखी है कि जो जानने के बाद में सोचने पे मजबूर होना पड़ता है और ये हमारे ज्ञान की वृद्धि है। और यहाँ पे हमारे उपस्थित डायनामिक लीडर राहुल जी जिन्होंने बहुत अच्छा यहाँ पे आयोजन किया, जो मराठवाड़ा क्षेत्र से आते हैं, मुझे खुशी है मैं भी उसी क्षेत्र से आता हूँ। सर, मैं एक बात आपको पेंशन के बारे में ज़रूर यहाँ पे रखना चाहता हूँ। पेंशन जो है ये नौकरी ख़त्म होने के बाद की प्रावधान और योजना है जिसको हम भावनाओं को और संवेदनाओं को समझने की इसमें ज़रूरत है। सबसे पहले कि जब रिटायर कोई हो जाता है तो बहुत बार ऐसे होता है कि उसकी पूरी कमाई वो जीवन भर में वो बच्चों पे और घर पे, माँ बाप पे, भाई बहनों पे खर्च कर देता है और वो ऐसे समय पे रिटायर होता है जब वो थक जाता है, बूढ़ा हो जाता है और उसको अगर पेंशन ना मिले तो उसको मेडिसिन के लिए, खाने के लिए, कपड़ों के लिए हो सकता है बच्चों पे और रिश्तेदारों पे निर्भर होना पड़े और जिसमें उसको हर दिन अपमानित होने की संभावना बहुत ज़्यादा है। तो ये उनकी जो सिचुएशन है इसको सम्मान के साथ जीने के लिए और उनको जीवित रखने के लिए पेंशन होना बहुत ज़रूरी है। ये एक बात मैं यहाँ पे कहना चाहता हूँ। दूसरी बात ये है सर, ओल्ड एज में आदमी को ऐसा भी होता है जैसे राहुल जी के शहर में पूना में बहुत सारे लोग, उनके बच्चे अमेरिका में हैं और वो वहाँ से पैसे भेज देते हैं कि ये पैसे ले लो, खा लो।
डेथ हो जाती है, वो पैसे भेज देते हैं, बाजू के नेबर को फ़ोन कर देते हैं, इनको जला दो। तो इस सिचुएशन में एक ही उनका आधार हो सकता है, वो पेंशन है। और उसके साथ दो बातें और मैं रखना चाहूँगा कि हज़ारों करोड़ रुपए इस देश में, पूरे देश में हज़ारों करोड़ रुपए कचरा उठाने के नाम से उद्योगपतियों को दिए जा रहे हैं। जो कि सफाई कामगार है उसका हक निकाल दिया है, वो एजेंसी को दे दिया, और वो एजेंसी उस सफाई कामगार का 10,000 रुपये एजेंसी ले रही है और उसको 5,000 दे रही है। और वो बड़ा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किसी चेन्नई की कंपनी को, दिल्ली की कंपनी को मिल रहा है, एम्बुलेंस का और कचरे का, जिसमें हज़ारों करोड़ रुपए वो व्यापारी लेके जा रहा है। तो हम वो पैसे बचा के पेंशन की तरफ डाइवर्ट कर सकते हैं। बुलेट ट्रेन अगर लेट आ जाए तो कुछ नहीं होगा, एक्सप्रेसवे अगर एक दो कम हो जाए तो चलेगा, लेकिन लोगों को सम्मान के साथ जीना जरूरी है। स्किल डेवलपमेंट के माध्यम से
क्वेश्चन हो गया।
आखिरी
संक्षिप्त में
स्किल डेवलपमेंट के माध्यम से सभी को अच्छा काम करने की जरूरत है। एक आदमी कमाए 10 बैठ के खाए, इसकी वजह से भारत पीछे है। जिस दिन 10 के 10 काम करने लग जाएंगे, बाकी सब चीजें ठीक हो जाएगी। धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू सर। मदन लाल जी, यस प्लीज, आपका ही प्रश्न।
सर, मेरा नाम मदन लाल है और मैं नई दिल्ली कस्तूरबा नगर से एमएलए हूं। मैं डॉक्टर जेपी का धन्यवाद करता हूं कि उन्होंने बहुत बढ़िया तरीके से, बहुत ज़्यादा गूढ़ तरीके से हमें पूरे देश की इकोनॉमी, टैक्स कलेक्शन का सिस्टम, खर्च करने का तरीका समझाया। कर्नाटक के भाई हमारे साथ बैठे हैं, उन्होंने जो कुछ कहा मैं उससे बिल्कुल पूर्णतः सहमत हूं। और इस बात को इस जोर के साथ कहता हूं कि सरकारें टैक्स इकट्ठा करती हैं देश को चलाने के लिए। लोग टैक्स इकट्ठा करते हैं इन द फॉर्म ऑफ सर्विसेज, इनकम करते हैं, जो अभी इनकम टैक्स की उसकी रिटायरमेंट स्कीम की बात हो रही है। जब सरकार, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट टैक्स कहीं से इकट्ठा कर रही है स्टेट से, तो उसका 41% सेंटर को जाता है। सेंट्रल टैक्स का 41% स्टेट से कलेक्शन होने के बावजूद गोज टू द सेंटर। 59% इज रिटेन्ड बाय दिस रेस्पेक्टिव गवर्नमेंट। दिल्ली में 1.5 लाख करोड़ से ज्यादा टैक्स कलेक्शन के बावजूद दिल्ली को केवल 350 करोड़ रुपया पर ईयर सेंटर देता है। हम 41 की मांग नहीं कर रहे हैं, पर हम कह रहे हैं कि ये सरकार का खुद का नियम है कि 41% अगर सेंटर लेगी स्टेट में और स्टेट को 59% देगी, तो दिल्ली को 150 मात्र 350 करोड़ क्यों? एक सवाल। दूसरा, जो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट 59% रिटेन कर रही है, कहां हो रहा है? डेवलपमेंट हो रहा है केवल उनके चहेते राज्यों में। जहां जहां उनके चहेते राज्य हैं, वहां हर स्कीम में माननीय रोज जाते हैं हजारों करोड़, लाखों करोड़ की स्कीम। प्लीज रुकिए। लाखों नहीं, हम पॉलिटिकल नहीं कर रहे हैं, ये पॉलिटिकल नहीं है।
सर आप कंक्लूड कीजिए,
आप रोकिए नहीं।
सरोगी जी एक सेकेंड
सुनने की क्षमता रखिए।
अरे भैया,
सरोगी जी
और
संक्षिप्त।
जो स्टेट, जिन स्टेटों में डेवलपमेंट नहीं हो पा रही है, वो पैसा वहां क्यों नहीं खर्च हो पाता? वो इलेक्शन के दिनों में ही स्कीम क्यों आती है?
पॉइंट आ गया है।
कोई ना कोई ऐसा मैकेनिज्म हमें बताइए कि जिन स्टेट्स को ज्यादा जरूरत है, जहां फंड्स की जरूरत है, वहां पैसा लगे, और बजाय जो इलेक्शन के दिनों में सरकारें दरियादिल हो जाती हैं या अपनी चहेती सरकारों को पैसा देती हैं, उस पर लगाम कैसे लगे? थैंक यू वेरी मच। थैंक यू।
कंक्लूड करो।
Kindly, you can respond to these questions. एक मिनट सर, प्लीज respond कर रहे हैं।
First of all, Rajesh Saab, this is not about whether government employees should get pension or no pension. Pension should be there for employees. But it should be sustainable pension. It should not impose a burden on the future so that you pay for it today. That's the plea I'm making. And second, all the people, as Nagaraj Saab was mentioning, all the people of India are entitled to some social security, not merely employees of government. They are not the only people of India. We, the people of India, are not merely government employees. I'm sure you recognize that. So I know many MLCs, because your constituency, your voters are government employees, graduates, and so on and so forth. You feel tempted, but there is a larger society in the country. So it is not a fight between yes pension and no pension. It is about sustainable pension. It is about not burdening the future. It is about all people slowly getting a measure of social security. I want to reiterate that, because sometimes the moment people like me, when they make a point, it appears as if I don't want pension to go to employees. No, sustainable pension. I understand New Delhi, Maharashtra, Gujarat, or Telangana, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. All of us, I belong to Telangana. We all make this case. Years ago, when Nitish Kumar became Chief Minister of Bihar, I was arguing with the then Prime Minister and the NAC chairperson that, look, forget political differences, please support Bihar, give whatever is possible to help them. They saw my name, they thought I was a Bihari, so somebody said, why are you so partisan? I said, what do you mean? He said, you are from Bihar, therefore you're arguing. I said, look, I'm from Andhra Pradesh. At that time, Andhra Pradesh was a combined state. I told them then, and I plead with you now, I told them, if UP and Bihar die, India dies. See, in a federal system, if you think that the problems of UP or Bihar or Rajasthan or Madhya Pradesh or Telangana or Karnataka will not affect the rest of India, we are mistaken. Even Bangladesh problems, you like it or not, we have to bear them. And if you make them suffer because they suffered bad governance earlier, can the people today, this generation today, pay the price for the past mistakes? So there is a federal arrangement. The richer the state, the more you give to the poorer states, not forever. There are two basic packages. One is the Finance Commission devolution. There is a formula, agreed basis. Yes, we can keep on improving that. Every Finance Commission keeps improving it. But it's done according to formula. The second is centrally sponsored schemes according to certain benchmarks. If you don't have a PHC, PHC. Don't have a school, school. If you already have it, then you don't need it. So I understand the heartburn. When you come from a more fortunate state, there's always a heartburn. But please remember the slide I put up there. Out of the 35 lakh crores that Government of India is getting as income, 20 lakh crores is going to states. Only 15 lakh crores is remaining there. It's not that there is money there either. We are all in the same boat. There is no union without the states. We are together. So yes, there can be better arrangement, there can be greater incentives for better management, but fundamentally the richer states will have to support the poorer states for some time. However difficult it is to accept politically, there is no way India will otherwise thrive or survive. And we are a common market. We are all benefiting from common market. Delhi is benefiting because we are India. Without India's 143 crore consumers, Delhi will not get the money. Without 143 crore consumers of India, Maharashtra will not get the money. We are all benefiting from the common market. So yes, it's a very heart-burning issue. Many of my colleagues and friends, sometimes some people even say, United States of South India. No, I understand. But I passionately believe there is an India, we have to protect that.
Thank you very much, sir. And we are really running short of time. My humble and kind request to everyone that...
Rahul sir, एक मिनट.
JP sir, permission, can I just...
Rahul sir,
so I request
conclude.
All the
Please.
members, I think it
Rahul
was a
sir.
wonderful 3 days participation from all of you. I have no words to express my satisfaction and happiness, the kind of engagement all the honorable members have showed here, and very wonderfully. JP sir, I must say that Jayaprakash Narayan ji has a very important stake in this institution. He has fostered this idea along with Shri T. N. Seshan ji, MITSOC, when I initiated in the year 2005. From that time, he is associated with this institution. So I have a highest regard for Shri JP Saab. Thank you. So, मैं ज़्यादा लंबा चौड़ा कुछ भी नहीं बोलूँगा, आपके सामने इतना ही कहूँगा, जो जो चीज़ें कल मैंने बातें की उनको तुरंत एक्शन में लाने के लिए मेरी एकेडमी की टीम आपके साथ संपर्क में रहेगी। जो कमिटीज़ के फॉर्मेट हो, आपके सेक्रेटरीज़ के ट्रेनिंग के बारे में जो रिसर्च एकेडमिक इनके जो रिसर्चर्स है उनका एक हमने प्रपोज किया कि 3 दिन का ट्रेनिंग भी हो सकता है। एक जेनरिक लीडरशिप का प्रोग्राम एमएलएज के लिए भी 4 दिन का बन सकता है पूरे भारत के एमएलएज को, तो उसका एक बहुत अच्छा डिज़ाइन और सब कुछ बन चुका है। और हमें थोड़ा पल्स भी जानना था इस पर्टिकुलर कन्वेंशन से, वो हमारी एकेडमिक टीम और हम सब लोग एनएलसी मुंबई में होने के बाद ये जो पल्स आपका है, जो प्रतिक्रिया, जो रिस्पॉन्स, जो रेसिप्रोकेशन है, वो वी ऑल हैव अंडरस्टूड, वी हैव गैदर्ड इनफ इन्फॉर्मेशन एंड वी विल रोबस्ट इंस्टीट्यूशन ये एनएलसी का जेपी सर आने वाले समय में कैसे बने, इनके ऊपर बहुत गंभीरता से कल चर्चा और सब लोगों ने इसका बहुत मतलब मुझे भी मोटिवेशन, बिकॉज मैं क्यों कर रहा हूँ, क्या कर रहा हूँ, हमें भी, बिकॉज मेरे भी ट्रस्टी यहाँ संस्था जो है भाई, तो वो रिस्पांस भी हमें समझना ज़रूरी था, तो हम सब लोग समझ गए हैं। तो मैं बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, आभार करता हूँ आप सब लोगों को। बॉन वॉयज एज यू गो बैक, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आई थिंक दे हैव केप्ट सम फेलिसिटेशन, so quickly, if you all are okay, some memento is there. So my colleague, the academic leaders, myself, we will give a, we will just...
Before all that, we'll thank you and we'll compliment you for doing a wonderful job.
Thank you so much. It was very, very motivating. आपने कल जो भी उद्गार संस्था के लिए और इस एनएलसी के लिए, इसका जो ओनरशिप आप सब लोगों ने लिया, ये मुझे खुद को प्रेरित करता है, बिकॉज आप समझ नहीं रहे, मतलब 1.5 साल तक इस एफर्ट के ऊपर आप सब लोग समझे हैं कि जो एफर्ट मैं और मेरी टीम ने इसमें लिया, अभी तक उसका थकावट गया नहीं। पिछले 6 महीने में इतना काम सब लोगों ने, सब लोगों को, सभी पार्टियों को जा के मैंने हाथ पैर कि भाई हम किसी पार्टी से जुड़े हुए नहीं है, ये अपॉलिटिकल है, इसका नेचर हमारा पायस उद्देश्य है और पिछले 18-20 साल से हम काम कर रहे हैं। वो भावना सबके मन में उतारना, आपकी सीनियर लीडरशिप, सबका ग्रेटिट्यूड, सभी देश के मुख्यमंत्री, पॉलिटिकल पार्टी के अध्यक्षों को मैंने खुद जाके 18 महीने इसके ऊपर काम किया। So thank you so much for the blessings and the support. We take it ahead for the country. It's a great
Thank you very much, sir. And
Rahul
now
sir,
it is the time that...
राहुल सर, राहुल जी एक सेकंड, आपने जब ये सारे एनएलसी ने बुलाए, आपने विकास की भी बहुत सारी बात हुई, कानून व्यवस्था की भी बात हुई, लेकिन आपसे एक रिक्वेस्ट है, किसान इस देश की रीढ़ की हड्डी है। राहुल जी, किसान इस देश की रीढ़ की हड्डी है, किसान के बारे में भी आप जरूर इसमें जोड़ने का काम करें। हाँ जी जी, तो किसान के बारे में भी आप जरूर सोचें।
As a token of gratitude from all our organizing committee, we are felicitating our esteemed MLAs and MLCs. We are really grateful to you that out of your busy schedule, you came here and graced the occasion. Friends, since last 3 days in this NLC Bharat Leadership Conclave, this conclave has brought together around 100 members of legislative assemblies and legislative councils for an unparalleled capacity building and enrichment programs. Notably, a majority of these participating MLAs and MLCs hold illustrious qualification, boasting PhDs, master degrees, backgrounds in engineering, law, medicine, and diverse fields. These legislators have been handpicked based on their exceptional social and political contributions. Importantly, they hail from various different political affiliations, uniting under the common goal of national progress. We are experiencing a very beautiful moment, friends. Wherein our Honorable Executive President, Founder Convener, NLC Bharat, Honorable Shri Rahul V. Karad is personally visiting each and every esteemed MLA and MLC and honoring them, felicitating them. A very happy moment. Scheduled from 10th to 12th of January 2024, this momentous conclave hosted specialized academic sessions for MLAs and MLCs and featured sessions led by eminent figures such as Honorable Shri M. Venkaiah Naidu ji, Honorable Shri Prithviraj Chavan ji, Honorable Professor Dr. Ramcharan ji, Honorable Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar ji, and today Honorable Dr. Jaiprakash Narayan ji. We are experiencing a very beautiful and historic moments where all our esteemed MLAs and MLCs are getting felicitated by our academic leaders and guest of honors. I request all the guests to kindly return the mementos to the volunteers so that they can pack it back and hand it over to your LOs. All these mementos would be handed over back to your LOs. A very beautiful, emotional moment here we are experiencing where our academic leaders are felicitating honorable MLAs and MLCs. A very happy moment for us. As a token of gratitude from all our organizing committee, a very happy moment for all of us. All the LOs are requested to collect the kids from backstage. All the LOs of our esteemed guests are requested to collect their kids from backstage. After this, we are proceeding to our lunch. All the student leaders and volunteers are requested to guide our guests towards lunch. We are heading towards lunch now. And after that, we would be having the valedictory function of Bharatiya Chhatra Sansad. After lunch, we all would be attending the valedictory function of 13th Bharatiya Chhatra Sansad. As we stand together for Bharat, on this common platform, forgetting our political parties, we all are standing together for Bharat. I request all the LOs to collect the kids from backstage. And guide our esteemed guests to proceed toward lunch. After the lunch, we all would be attending the valedictory function of 13th Bharatiya Chhatra Sansad in Swami Vivekananda Mandap.